Hi dears, welcome to our YouTube channel Swapnaraj Story.
Please like the video and subscribe for getting the firstest notification of our video.
Let's start.
Welcome to Today News. I am Shreya. Let's take a look upon headlines. Rescue. Dangerous. May take a long time. NDMA. With the auger machine stuck, horizontal drilling has not proceeded in 48 hours. Manual drilling mult for last 10 meters, plasma cutter being brought in from Hyderabad to cut out stuck auger. Vertical drilling, risky. Rajasthan records 71.64% turnout in peaceful polling. BRS, Congress have no place in Telangana, PM. Hyderabad, the BRS and the Congress have no place in Telangana as the winds of change are blowing strongly in favor of the BJP, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said on Saturday. 4 convicts get jail term in journalist murder case. A Delhi court on Saturday sentenced 4 men to life imprisonment for killing. Queries in Lok Sabha. CBI studying Lokpal plaint against Mahua. 4 killed, 50 injured in stampede amid rain at Cochin University Fest. Court to decide on POCSO charges against ex-WFI chief. Despite decline in pollution levels, city air remains toxic. Bike taxi drivers say new scheme rendered 50k jobless. Samya Vishwanathan murder. 4 convicts awarded life sentence. 5th convict gets 3 years in jail for receiving stolen property of deceased TV journalist. Court turns down request for capital punishment, says act doesn't fall in rarest of rare cases category. Treated victim as prey. Electrocution deaths. Kin demand action against the hospital. Court to examine if street art is covered under copyright rules. Anti-Sikh riots. LG nod to file petition in SC. P for Pluralism. Alphabet Series showcases Karnataka's rich legacy of diversity. Constitution Day. The campaign also coincides with Constitution Day, which is celebrated on November 26. The values of the Constitution, such as fraternity, dignity and equality, which are thought of as Western values, can be seen in our literature. Vinay K. Srinivasa, another team member, says, adding that the quotes by literary figures highlighted in the campaign reflect these values. UP winter session to begin on November 28. No phones in-house. No place for BRS, Kong. Winds of change in favor of BJP in Telangana, PM. People fed up with 9.5-year rule of the BRS, 50-year rule of the Congress, says Modi at poll rally, bring Congress to power for a new dawn and empowerment in the state. Priyanka. No seat-sharing talks for Lok Sabha poll yet. Ajit Pawar. EC was silent when PM made religious remark, says Yechury. Captain. Pranjal cremated with state honors in Bengaluru, hundreds bid tearful adieu. Woman Sarpanch. 3 others disrobe, assault son's partner in Gujarat. No legal aid provided. HC sends 2 sentenced for rape back to trial. UP. Minister issues message a day after check row. Re-adopted bills only seek to take away TN. Governor's power to appoint VCs. The pieces of legislation do not disturb governor's status as chancellor. Through a new section, the bills state that VCs can be removed only by the order of the government, apart from laying down the procedure for their removal. Governor R.N. Ravi had withheld his consent for the bills. Rahul makes surprise visit to biryani joint in Hyderabad. Sale of shawarma stopped in 148 outlets in Kerala. A coastal flavor, Kambala makes a splash in Bengaluru. Get a flight-like feel on Vande Bharat trains soon. Women wield the wrench at this motorcycle workshop in Kasaragod. 2 arrested in Visage fishing harbor fire accident case. Indian, Italian firms to set up joint venture in TN Defense Corridor. Delhi government must be given more respect, says ex-chief Sesi. The best 5 years, during which Delhi did very well, was when we had a BJP government at the center and a Congress government in Delhi. Things worked wonderfully. Aditya L. the 1st of May enter orbit on Jan. 7. ISRO. Rescue. Dangerous. May take a long time. NDMA. Rajasthan records 71.64% turnout. Government invites civil society leaders from Leh and Kargil for dialogue. Leh apex body, Kargil Democratic Alliance have chosen 7 members each to present their demands. They have been demanding statehood for Ladakh, inclusion in the 6th schedule, reservation in jobs, and representation in parliament. JDU plans to reach out to SCs in Bihar with Bhim Sansad. Rejection by governor does not mean death of bill, Supreme Court. Army finalizes ammunition requirement for 10 years, banks on indigenous manufacturing. Ahead of Lok Sabha election, Trinamool, BJP reach out to supporters of other parties. Rahul's Panati jibe at Modi below the belt. Describing Congress leader Rahul Gandhi's Panati comments against Prime Minister Narendra Modi as below the belt, Union Home Minister and BJP leader Amit Shah on Saturday said people will give a befitting reply to such remarks in the upcoming Telangana Assembly election. Whenever below-the-belt language was used about the Prime Minister, people have given a befitting reply in whichever state in the country. I am confident that voters of Telangana would give a fitting reply through voting on this language which is below the belt, Mr. Shah said. Palawala Jatan village in Jaipur boycotts polls. Polling agent dies in Rajasthan. Humor and local stars to appeal to younger voters. With turmeric board set to be a reality, no yellow twist this time. Turmeric spiced up 2014 and 2018 Assembly and 2019 Lok Sabha elections in Armoor and Balkonda constituencies of Nizamabad district, but with the Prime Minister announcing the formation of the board, it has lost campaign currency. Chidambaram slams misuse of central agencies. Former Union Minister P. Chidambaram on Saturday said the misuse of central agencies was so apparent that it did not even require an argument in a court of law. In a post on X, Mr. Chidambaram said 4 Congress candidates in the Telangana election had been summoned or had their premises searched by the investigating agencies in the middle of the election campaign. One of them was the chairman of the BJP's Manifesto Committee and resigned from the BJP on November 1. To the best of my knowledge, no candidate of the BJP has been searched by the agencies, Mr. Chidambaram said. Wealth and power stayed in KCR's family for 9 years. Not much has changed for the people of Telangana, and that is why the BRS should be voted out in this election, says the senior Congress leader. BJP seeks action against Gandhis for defying Model Code of Conduct. Case filed against NCPCR chief for trespassing into orphanage. Teacher job aspirants try to storm into UP BJP office. Modi security lapse. Punjab police officer suspended. Publicity of only one person is going on, says Nitish Kumar. Infertility treatment finds a place in political manifestos. Doctors welcome inclusion of infertility, which is recognized as public health issue by WHO. They say policy on treatment can mitigate the financial burden and emotional impact of infertility on family life. States are planning to give financial aid. Urban Affairs Ministry starts data portal on cities for policymaking. IAF flies Modi on a Tejas aircraft over Bengaluru for 30 minutes. CBI to probe midday meal irregularities in Bengal, says Centre. Centre convenes all-party meeting on December 2. AIFB leader Ashok Ghosh remembered on 100th birth anniversary. U.S. police officer, who killed George Floyd, stabbed in prison. 11 killed in fire in Karachi shopping mall while several feared trapped. China holds military drills along violence-hit Myanmar border. Indonesian police, fishermen start patrols to stop Rohingya boats. Ahmadi place of worship attacked in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Israeli-owned ship hit in Iran drone attack. Hamas delays release of second batch of hostages. It cites issue of aid deliveries to Gaza and selection criteria for prisoner releases as reasons for putting off the exchange. Israel says it has not violated truce and vows to press ahead with war. Kyiv hit by most massive drone attack since the start of war, says Ukraine. China complains of incursion by U.S. ship into territorial waters. You mean to break away from Maldives President Mitsu? Cycling of solution needed for dolomite crystals to grow. Extremely energetic cosmic ray with no source detected. Higher BMI associated with increased cancer risk. Vivid patterns. How do animals get their stripes and spots? The University of Colorado Boulder engineers have shown that the same physical process that helps remove dirt from laundry could play a role in how tropical fish get their colorful stripes and spots. The movement of molecules during diffusiophoresis, the migration of a colloidal particle in a solution in response to the macroscopic concentration gradient of a molecular solute, always follows a clear trajectory and gives rise to patterns with sharp outlines. The researchers ran a simulation of the purple and black hexagonal pattern seen on the ornate boxfish skin using only the Turing equations. The computer produced a picture of blurry purple dots with a faint black outline. Then the team modified the equations. The result turned out to be much more similar to the bright and sharp bicolor hexagonal pattern seen on the fish. The team's theory suggests that when chemical agents diffuse through tissue as Turing described, they also drag pigment-producing cells with them through diffusiophoresis. Antarctica's ozone hole expands mid-spring since 2001. 8 months on, states wait for 3-HPTB preventive drug. Though the Central TB Division has not supplied 3-HP drugs to states since its rollout in March, Tamil Nadu and Kerala have begun using 3-HP for TB preventive treatment. How does our brain? It is estimated that half the people of the world can speak more than one language. In South India, a large percentage of the population is conversant in at least 2 languages. Thanks to a high rate of literacy, many of them can read and write in those languages too. We humans know a great deal about the languages of the world, and the scripts that they are written in. But we still have a lot to learn about how our brains read and comprehend languages. The process of learning to read begins with getting acquainted with the letters of the alphabet and understanding how they produce sounds. As reading skills develop, children become increasingly adept at perceiving letter sounds and how these come together to form words. Eventually this becomes a subconscious action. Research has indicated that this progress is aided by the development of the visual word form area VWFA in the brain, which is formed in the part of the brain that is responsible for recognizing visual signals such as facial features and objects. With only a few months of education, this portion of the cortex is able to recognize the script that has been learned. When someone speaks multiple languages, patches of the VWFA are dedicated to recognizing each language.
Memory and nutrition.
The tasks to be learned by a child are complex. They have to learn a vocabulary, and what each of those words mean. They have to read effortlessly to be able to understand sentences, and then whole paragraphs. Having a good working memory and flexible reasoning skills, commonly known as executive functions, allows children to become better readers. These traits help them excel in all areas of their lives, academically and emotionally. A study of preschoolers by Sumitra Selvam and her team at the St. John's Research Institute in Bengaluru has shown that executive function improves with better nutrition. Child Neuropsychology, 2018. Healthy bodies are needed for bright minds. It should be kept in mind that the time it takes for a child to understand visual text, To correlate text with speech, and to recognize vocal sounds varies from one youngster to th.
Reading disorders.
Dyslexia is a disorder marked by difficulty in reading. This neurological problem is associated with reduced language processing activity in the brain. Aphasia, another language disorder, is caused by brain damage, such as after a stroke. It reduces the ability to express and understand language. The damage can also cause alexia, an inability to comprehend written language, or agraphia, the inability to write coherently. Eventual recovery from aphasia is quite common. Individuals who speak multiple languages and are suffering from aphasia usually struggle in all their languages, but at different levels of severity. To explain this phenomenon, it has been hypothesized that the first learned or most used language is the least affected. Early training of the brain thus appears to set a strong foundation for reading skill and enjoyment.
Is India lagging in measles vaccination? What does the WHO report state and how has the Union Health Ministry responded?
The Health Ministry maintains that over 21,000 Indian children in 2022-23 did not get the first measles shot, and that catch-up vaccinations are going on in states.
What factors led to the turmoil at OpenAI? Why did the board of an organization which is at the forefront of the AI revolution try to oust its CEO? Is there a contradiction in principle between its non-profit roots and the for-profit venture it launched to build monetizable consumer AI technology?
The cause of the trouble at OpenAI can be traced to a contradiction that exists at the heart of the company.
Where does India stand on Israel-Hamas war? What is India's stance vis-a-vis the West and the global South? Is it now closer to Western countries than the global South? And how will this impact India's relations with different powers in West Asia? What about India's relations with Iran, Israel's chief rival?
Experts suggest that India is being watched closely to see if its stance favors Israel over all other ties with the Gulf and the Arab world. Over the past weeks, India has expressed itself in statements, joint statements, and votes at the United Nations on the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict, that saw a temporary pause for the exchange of hostages which began on Friday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi hosted two separate virtual summits, the concluding session of India's G20 and the second edition of the Voice of Global South Summit, and spoke about the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict, as well as the importance of heeding the concerns of the developing world. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar travelled to the UK for talks, held along with Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, 2+2, dialogues with their counterparts from the US and Australia where joint statements reflected the West's position much more.
What is the position India has articulated?
India's position, as articulated since the October 7 terror attacks along the Israel-Gaza border by Hamas that killed more than 1,200 people, and then on the bombardment of Gaza by Israel where more than 13,000 have been killed, has been multi-layered. The Modi government has condemned terrorism in the strongest language and stood with Israel over the attack, although it hasn't thus far designated Hamas as a terror group. The government has called on Israel for restraint, dialogue and diplomacy and condemned the death of civilians, and along with the US and Australia, called for humanitarian pauses in bombardment, but has not so far called for a ceasefire. At the same time, India has reaffirmed its support for a two-state solution, including a sovereign, viable state of Palestine existing in peace alongside Israel, supported the socio-economic welfare of the Palestinian people, and has sent 70 tons of humanitarian assistance including 16.5 tons of medicines and medical supplies via Egypt to Gaza in the past month, Mr. Jaishankar said at the BRICS emergency meeting chaired by South Africa this week. Mr. Modi, however, skipped the BRICS Plus summit attended by all other leaders of the 11-nation grouping, indicating a discomfort with the tough line taken by South Africa that has asked for the International Criminal Court to investigate Israel for alleged war crimes in Gaza. Meanwhile, at the United Nations, India abstained at a UNGA vote on October 26 that called on Israel for a ceasefire, but voted in favor of other draft resolutions at the UNGA's Fourth Committee on November 9 against Israel's settler policies in the occupied territories including the West Bank and Syrian Golan.
Is India's position closer to the West or the global South?
Traditionally, since its leadership of the non-aligned movement, India's position on the Israel-Palestine conflict has always aligned with the global South, offering full support for the Palestinian cause. It has called for talks to end the conflict, while building a stronger strategic, defense, counter-terrorism cooperation and trade ties with Israel since 1992, after they established full diplomatic ties. Since the Kargil War, where Israel provided India crucial and timely shipments of weapons and ammunition, a study of India's statements at the UN showed a softening of language against Israel, including toning down condemnation of Israeli airstrikes on Gaza, although it voted regularly with the developing world to stop the violence. India's vote on October 26, however, was a departure from that, where it lined up alongside 45 abstentions, mostly from European countries, rather than the 120 countries, mostly from the global South, which included nearly all the countries of West Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, Africa and South America that voted for the resolution. India also joined the US-led formulation of total condemnation of the October 7 terror attacks and for humanitarian pauses, ostensibly to allow food, fuel and water into Gaza in between periods of Israeli bombardment, language that appeared in both its joint statements after the 2+2 dialogues with the US and Australia. India has stood apart from Western countries in that it has not thus far banned Hamas, or designated it a terror organization as the US, UK, Switzerland and Germany have moved to do. In an effort perhaps to push India to do so, Israel this week announced it was banning the Lashkar-e-Taiba, the group responsible for the Mumbai 26/11's terror attacks that included Israeli victims, 15 years later.
How will this impact ties in West Asia?
While India's relations with Israel have been increasingly dehyphenated from its ties with Palestine, many experts have suggested that any change in its stance favoring Israel over all other ties with the Gulf and Arab world will be watched closely. Each country has a rich history of ties with India. For several years, India has built special ties with the UAE and Saudi Arabia, calculating that the normalization of ties between them and Israel is only a matter of time, as the Abraham Accords showed. As a result, the India-Israel-UAE-US I2U2 trade initiative and the recently launched India-Middle East-Europe economic corridor hinging on this normalization could be one casualty of the Israel-Hamas conflict, which has led to a strong reaction from the Arab League and Organization of Islamic Cooperation. When asked this week, the U.S. ambassador to India, Eric Garcetti, accepted that the conflict could pause infrastructure initiatives, but that in the long term, the logic of such plans would prevail. India's ties with Iran, Israel's chief enemy, that have been strengthened by initiatives like the Chabahar port and the international north-south transport corridor to Central Asia and Russia could also be affected, if it seems that the Modi government is choosing one side more clearly than the other. Israeli companies have expressed interest in bringing in nearly a lakh of Indian workers to replace Palestinian workforce in the construction industry. New Delhi has thus far not jumped at the idea, keeping in mind the more than 8 million Indians working in Gulf countries that could be impacted as well. Argentina's president of chaos, Javier Milei, the far-right libertarian economist, wants to reconfigure the government's role, slash public spending and dollarize the economy, in response to Argentina's worst economic crisis in a generation. Out of the wilderness. Geert Wilders with the victory of the anti-Islam, anti-immigrant Party for Freedom, Dutch politics has taken a sharp turn towards the far right. Outspoken parliamentarian, Mahua Moitra, the Trinamool MP, who is facing attacks from the BJP, remains unapologetic and defiant, and has lashed out at attempts to tarnish her reputation by targeting her personal life. IIL unveils measles, rubella vaccine Mabella for children. Berkshire Hathaway sells 2.46% in Paytm for 1,371 crore rupees. Rusan Pharma unveils 300 crore rupees. API manufacturing unit in MP. SEBI approves rules for index providers. The market regulator introduces a regulatory framework for index providers with the objective of fostering transparency and accountability. SEBI also amends rules to encourage small and medium REITs with an asset value of at least 50 crore rupees and to strengthen investor protection in AIFs. International air traffic hits highest level on November 24 feet. Air India readies to welcome first A350 next month. CCI buys cotton at MSP as prices drop. India announces phased introduction of biogas blending. Phased introduction will start at 1% for use in automobiles and households from April 2025. India's agricultural imports from South Australia tripled under zero tariff regime. It was a big thing when PM came to console us after the loss. Surya. India's middle order should have played with intent. Akram. Australia spinner Leone mocks England's baseball approach. Djokovic fuming after doping control request. India will look to fix bowling issues and extend the lead. With little to choose between the two sides, all eyes will be on the pitch. Australia could get a boost with Head, Maxwell and Zampa, who were rested in the first match, likely to be in contention for Sunday's game. I have a role in the team, and a clear mindset, Tilak. Liverpool snaps Man City's streak. TN battles hard to edge up and enter the semi-finals. Sinner foils Djokovic to pull Italy level. Leading pugilists make winning starts on the opening day. Verstappen takes pole ahead of Leclerc. The triple world champion is vying for a record-extending 19th win in 22 races. Norris drops from a provisional second to an eventual fifth. Tarandeep, Sangeeta top qualification. Tiha's fine run comes to an end in the semi-finals. Maiden national junior boys billiards title for Dougal. Satwik Chirag duo enters summit clash. The former world number 1 Indian pair notched up a win over the China's He and Ren in an explosive semi-final. Livermore, who is in good shape, should score in the Golconda 1000 guineas. De Villiers wins Hyderabad silver vase. Uday Saharan to lead India in U19 Asia Cup. Chennaiyin, East Bengal share the spoils on a day of errors. Chauth and the migrant. During the festival, the revelers create mini bahars across the country, spreading the rich cultural and spiritual heritage of the state.
Please like, share and subscribe our YouTube channel to stay connected with us.
To get the fastest notifications of our interesting videos, press the bell icon and on all notifications.
Bye bye, see you in the next video.